All right, Mike Kennedy, thank you for being here.
Mr. Greenwald, pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I thought of you, and well, we were talking a little bit through text, and you know, the podcast itself is not like any specific niche. It's more me talking to interesting people, just
Mhm.
having authentic conversations.
Yeah,
At times, I find it so interesting when people have been through the trenches and then come out the other side, and I think as we get into your story, people will see that that's you in a lot of ways.
thank you.
Um, and then, just who you've become with where you started from,
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
incredible. And just a little bit of a teaser, Mike is a MMA fighter, um, recently got into acting and is being recognized for that. And very, very humbling origin story. So before we really get into it though, everybody who is new gets a personalized copy of the book.
Oh, thank you.
So no, thank you. Thank you for being here,
Oh, this is
sharing our
awesome.
story. And hope it inspires some people. I'm sure it will.
I cannot wait to dive into this. This is going to be sick. Thank you so much.
And write a review, please. Even
Yeah, I will.
I want reviews.
Even if it's bad.
I need reviews. Um, yeah. So, can you give a little background on where you came from and what?
So yeah, from Atlanta, Georgia, down in the dirty South. Lost my mom when I was 3 years old. She passed away from cervical cancer a couple days after my third birthday. So my dad raised me and my sister kind of, I say on his own, but the neighborhood we were in, the community, he had so much help, and everyone really kind of came together to help him and as much as they could, go through that and raise me and my sister to the best of his ability. And it's not like a rags to riches thing or anything like that, because my dad, he did very well for himself. We grew up in a big house, and he did so much for me and my sister. It's just insane. But so yeah, everything kind of really started with just that initial loss of my mom, going into childhood with just one parent as opposed to two. It kind of already kind of makes you different than the other kids that you're seeing at school with both parents and whatnot.
Mhm.
Yeah. But but yeah, that's kind of like the first kind of trauma. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you mention help, community help, were other people taking you to school or
Yeah, we
is
had
it?
yeah, babysitting, taking us to school. My dad, who's, he was busy with work a lot, so and a couple of our neighbors, they went to the same school that we went to, so yeah, I was catching rides with them to school, and just like you said, babysitting and stuff like that. Anything that they could do to give my dad a little bit of a break, they were helping out in any way they could, and we're forever grateful for that. And but yeah, it's just kind of like the neighborhood community kind of coming together to help a guy in need.
That's good. I can't
And
imagine.
you see a lot of that. You were out here in Kachina and Mountain Air, and it's kind of tight knit communities. And I imagine it'd be the same thing out here. Everyone's so close
Yeah.
in a town like
Step
this, in a
up.
community like this. People step up, and it's always so beautiful to see that.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, I can't imagine how tough that would be, honestly. Just as a father.
Yeah, and it's tough now because my oldest daughter is at the age, almost at the age where my sister was when we lost our mom. And growing up, I was always kind of with like the grief side of things. It was hard for me. I feel like my sister and my father, they kind of they shared kind of a connection and a relationship with my mom, so they had more grief over it. Whereas I mean, I was, I just turned 3. I had a mom, but I didn't know my mom. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And So for me, it was just kinda going into childhood without a mom. I didn't know her. I don't even know what her voice sounded like, honestly, and, that sucks, but my sister, on the other hand, she was 7 years old when my mom passed away, I believe, and my daughter's 6 now, and I look at my daughter, and I'm just like, "Good gosh," and I, like, see my sister, and I'm like, I just can't imagine, like, because I see the connection my daughter has with my wife, and I'm just like, "Wow," like, it really puts it into perspective, the grief that my sister had to go through as well.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can't imagine.
and at times, I grew up, like, almost, like, jealous of her at times because I was like, like, you knew mom, like, you knew mom, like, you had a connection with her, and I didn't, and now that I'm older, I'm almost like, "Oh my gosh," like, I'm so yeah, like, yeah, it almost is a blessing just going through that trauma at a young age like that, like, I really, I feel for her in a lot of ways, and it makes me feel like shit for kinda, like, almost kinda holding that against her at times growing up,
Mhm.
you know? Yeah, so my daughter being at the age roughly around the same age that my sister was when our mom passed away, it gives me a chance to kinda see kinda the connection that my sister had with my mom and the relationship that they were probably able to build, and, whereas I had just turned 3 years old when she passed away, so I didn't have that relationship. I didn't know my mom. I had a mom, but I didn't know my mom. And whereas my sister, she was 7 years old, so she had built a very good connection with our mom, and, uh, there were times where we were growing up where I was, jealous of her because she had that and I didn't, but now looking back, it just kinda makes me, like, almost it's a blessing for me that I was that young when it happened,
Mhm.
as opposed to being older and having more of a relationship and a connection to her and then having to lose her at such a young age.
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah, I just can't imagine either side, right? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, tough all the way
all
around, yeah.
yeah. So, did you have any female influences? Your dad remarry or anything like that?
He remarried a few years before he passed away, and, but other than that, no, he didn't want any distractions from us, and he made it a point to himself that he wasn't gonna get involved in a serious relationship until we were adults and out of the house, because he wanted to focus on us and raising us to the best that he could. And, I mean, you gotta respect that, right? I mean,
Yeah.
because I mean, I'm sure that there were plenty of times where, he coulda, gotten into a relationship with somebody or gone out for dates and stuff like that, but he never did. Yeah, get distracted, but he never did. He was always, he always gave as much of his time to us as he could. And it was hard too because, he was running a company and that took a lot of time as well. Took a lot of time away from us. And I feel like he knew that, so he was like a relationship would just be too much. So he really he gave gave a lot to us.
Incredible. I mean, like the humanity of that.
Yeah.
I know a couple of people like that are currently doing that.
Yeah.
Like single parents raising children and just stepping up for what they think is the right thing to do. Like
Exactly.
inspired.
It really is. Yeah.
And I can't imagine how hard it is because we have one and there's two of us. So I can't imagine,
Yeah.
how how that happens. But so let's fast forward a little bit. Let's go to martial arts. When did you get into that?
So yeah, our father just kind of needed something for us to do so he could like drop us off somewhere. He could go like run some errands, do some grocery shopping. So he put us in just traditional martial arts at first. And we got like our, black belts for that, breaking boards, all the hiya stuff. And after that we transitioned into Muay Thai.
Okay.
We found another gym and we got into Muay Thai, and my sister was at an age where she started fighting a lot, and so she was fighting Muay Thai, and I was just kind of growing up around the gym, and I feel like that's where the love for combat sports for me started, was just growing up kind of around the gym, looking up to these guys that are training, looking up to guys like me now that are training. I'm just like, man, these guys are like gods, and uh so yeah, my sister was fighting Muay Thai a lot, and yeah, at the time, women fighting, it wasn't really as popular as it was today. So my sister was fighting like the best female Muay Thai fighters like in the region and like in the country, and she had some tough fights, and it was so cool to see. I mean, you've been to a fight that you fought, you know what it's like, and it's just the high you get from even just being at a combat sports event. You're just like, whoa, this is badass. You're like, you're like, I want to do this. Yeah, I want to be like these guys.
Until and I'm sure we have different mentalities, but then, I wanna be like that, and then I get in the cage and I'm like, "Oh, no."
Yeah, you're like, yeah, they're announcing her name. You're like, what the hell am I doing here?
You're like, "That's not me, I don't belong here."
Exactly.
But I've gotten to I know we're going a little off track, but I've gotten to watch you fight live, and I feel like you flip the switch right away. Like,
You have to, yeah, you gotta become primal in a way. Something kinda comes over you, you're like, "Okay, like, I'm in here. I gotta do what I need to do so I can get out of here."
my switch never came until, like, the second round, or
Yeah.
I blocked every punch, but it was with my temples and ears. It's
Classic.
but what drew you to combat sports? I mean, other than kinda looking up to those, what about them made you wanna do that?
I mean, you hear so much about, like, adversity in some fighters' lives, and a lot of they have stories just like everybody else, and I remember at a young age, I was like, "Man, I can relate to these guys in a lot of ways," and, so I just felt like that was a good subculture to get involved in, because it was, a lot of people that may or may not have the same story as me, but, the thing about combat sports is you could have criminals on the mats, you could have cops on the mat, you could have doctors on the mats, but everybody's there to get better and kind of push each other, and it's one of the best things about it.
It's a true melting pot, I think.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I love that piece.
And even at a young age, seeing that, I was just like, this is kinda what I wanna do, and a culture I wanna be involved in, yeah.
That's awesome. But I'm gonna lead you a little bit because I know that you kinda fell off track too.
Mhm, yeah. Yeah, I was, not the best kid growing up. I, got into a lot of trouble at school. I mean, just the classic stuff, like, I just didn't take school seriously. I don't know what it was. I don't maybe it was that I wasn't the brightest bulb in the tanning bed or something, but I just didn't take it seriously. I didn't wasn't a fan of school, and I got into a lot of trouble, and, it kinda, that's kinda where the whole kinda going off track, going down kinda the bad path kinda started, was, at school, and a lot of it started with I got a Adderall prescription, because, when you can't focus in school and stuff, they say, "Oh, you have ADHD, let's give you some diet meth and see if that helps you out." And, I hated taking these things. It sucked. I was, like, in middle school at the time, and, I would take these, and I couldn't yeah, like, wouldn't eat lunch at school because I wasn't hungry, and, I was just talking all the time, so I stopped taking them. I started stockpiling them. I started stockpiling them, and I got to a point where I started selling them, and that was the origin story
For the bad.
for the bad path. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I started, started selling these pills at a young age, and, eventually I got kicked out of the school. I was at a really nice private school, and I got kicked out of that school, and I went to public school, and that's really where things kinda started to go off the charts a little bit.
Crowd.
Yeah, just a different crowd. It was a way bigger school, and I was at this private school. It was like a 1A school, pretty small, and then I went to a 5A public school, and it was just like
It's a big leap.
big leap, and you're just exposed to a lot more, and it gave me a chance to, get involved with different crowds and stuff like that. And, I'm not saying that all those crowds were bad. I met a lot of really good people that I'm still friends with, but, I got involved with some, bad stuff as well.
So the move from private to public didn't help.
No,
You continued down.
yeah, it didn't help. Yeah, it didn't help at all. It was just kind of going more downhill, and it actually led to a point where I think it was junior year. Oh, yeah, I want to say junior year, or maybe right at the beginning of my senior year. Got into a huge fight at school in the locker room after weight training, and this kid was running his mouth, and I started beating up on him, and a couple of my friends came in and started jumping in on him as well, and it was a pretty big story locally at the time, but uh, we all got kicked out of school and then arrested, and that kind of that gives you that reputation right there. Oh shit, this dude got kicked out of school for fighting. He got arrested. He's on house arrest now. He's on probation, and that kind of was the beginning of kind of like tarnishing uh, my reputation. And it's a reputation. My dad was a very respected person in the community, and I feel like it did a lot to his name as well.
How did he treat you with that?
Surprisingly, he just kind of was like, all right, well, like, where do we go from here and stuff like that. And he was very, I don't want to say like understanding, because it was kind of like a bad thing that I did, but he was very much like, okay, like, let's just try to get back on track.
Okay.
And it's just something that I couldn't do. And it got to a point where I was selling drugs a little bit here and there, and I got popped for like possession and stuff like that. So I was always on probation or something like that, and I had to pass drug tests. So it got to a point where I couldn't smoke weed anymore. So I developed a Xanax addiction. I started taking Xanax, and it seemed like that kind of helped with the stress of everything. But it got to a point where I was eating those things like candy, man. And Xanax, I mean, it's a dangerous drug, and you can't remember stuff you did, and like the years 2014 to 2015, like a complete blur.
Wow.
Very spotty, and like all I know is I did a lot of bad things, and I ruined relationships and friendships, and just a lot of stuff I'm not proud of, and that led to me making the decision that I need to get the hell out of here. Like, I need a fresh start. Like, at that point, I had just shit on my name, pretty much ruined like my family's reputation. And, it got to a point where I was at my dad's work, and I looked at my dad. I was like, Dad, like, if I stay here in Georgia, like, I'm either going to end up dead or in prison, and I need to make a change, and I need to make it now. Like, I need to get out. And he was very supportive of that. And a friend of his had worked a seasonal position at Glacier National Park when he was in his early 20s. And he told me, he was like, well, maybe you should like look into something like that. So I did. So I looked into it, and I got a summer position at Yellowstone National Park, and I got to drive out there. And that was like this turning point for me. Was leaving Atlanta in the rear view and just driving west.
Interesting. Was the decision point, going back to the decision point to leave, was there like an event, or was it something that you just woke up one day and said, I gotta leave, or was it a gradual build? What that look like?
I mean, it was kind of like a number of events. Yeah, I don't want to go too much into those, but like it was just kind of just a few eye-opening events where I was just like, man, like, I am not only going down the wrong path, I am miles and miles down the wrong path, and I don't know if there's any turning back.
Okay.
And I couldn't find I felt that I wouldn't be able to find redemption for myself staying where I was in Atlanta. and it was just like I woke up and I was just like, I need to get out of here. I need to get out of here, and I need to do it soon. Yeah.
Okay. And then so driving out west, were you by yourself?
By myself, man, yeah, just me, a Toyota Camry with a kayak and a mountain bike strapped to the roof, driving out west, and it was the craziest thing because I get, like, halfway, and my car breaks down on me. The car breaks down, I'm like, "What the fuck? Like, is this a sign? Like, should I not be doing this?" And I called my dad, and I was at this, I forget where I was at, it was maybe OKC, like, Oklahoma City. And I called my dad and I was like, "Dad, the Camry, it took a shit on me. Like, I don't know what to do." My dad was like, "Hop on a Greyhound bus." He's like, "You're not stopping." He's like, "Get on a Greyhound bus and go up to Montana." And so I got on the Greyhound, went to, I think it was Bozeman, or it may have been Billings, and they had a Yellowstone employee like shuttle bus that would come and pick you up and take you to the park to start orientation.
Wow.
So I was like, "Just get there." My dad was like, "Just get there." He's like, "You're not coming back. Like, we're in too deep. Keep going."
Did he tow the car or something?
Yeah, him and one of my uncles, they came and they took care of that car, and they got a car. They got me a Honda Civic, put it on a car trailer, and drove it up to the park for me.
Okay.
So I had a car, yeah.
Okay.
And that was the start of something new. I mean, going from Atlanta to Yellowstone National Park, living in the park,
I've never been there.
talk about a change of scenery. It was some of the most beautiful country you'll see. And it was just, so vast, so beautiful. I was working at Mammoth Hot Springs Hotel right at the north entrance of the park. You're like an hour and a half from Bozeman. And man, it was so cool. I met so many great people there, and just having a chance to kind of leave behind the person I was and start to rebuild,
Yeah.
it was so cool.
Were you able to break the addiction at that point?
Yeah, because I didn't. Yeah, I didn't know anybody, out there that could get me like stuff or anything, and so
Just
yeah,
too far removed.
yeah, it was just
Right.
too far removed, and I wasn't trying to like. At that point, I was like, man, I'm not trying to.
Wanted to change.
Yeah, I wanted to change at that point. So I was like, okay, this is all new. It's brand new. And I thought of it like, now I'm a new person now.
Yeah.
In this new area. And it's crazy because once you move out west, I moved out west in, 2016, and I knew I would never go back. I knew I would never melt back. Yeah, I just felt it. I was like, I go back and I visit family. I see my sister, and I see, I have a really big family. So I go back and I see all my cousins and my uncles, but people are always like, "Oh, are you ever gonna move home?" And blah blah blah. I'm like, "Nope, not a chance, not a chance in hell." And part of it is like, even when I go back and visit my family, there's just constant reminders of the person I was when I lived there, and it just brings me so much shame to think about the person I was then and the things that I did and that I was doing. And even when we're just there visiting family for a short little trip, there's just too many triggers. It's something that I could never go back full time to now.
I think the recognition is huge, though.
Yeah.
You know, you know the path you want to be on, and
Yeah,
what
well,
it takes to stay on that path.
yeah, exactly.
So then, yeah. So you worked at Yellowstone. Were you fighting at the time? Was there any way to do anything like that?
No, there were a couple gyms in Bozeman, but for the most part, I was just like rolling around with dudes that like I worked with in the park. Cause you say like, "Oh yeah, I fought a couple times back in Georgia," and they're like, "Oh, well, show me," or shit like that. And we roll around, and they're like, "Okay, yeah, you did,
You did fight.
yeah, you did fight," and but I wasn't fighting at all. I kind of took a break from it because I just wanted to focus. I knew the focus needed to be on me. So I just took a break from everything and just focused on me and the park. I kind of immersed myself in Yellowstone, and it's such a huge national park. You could spend months traveling around it. And, I did when I wasn't working. I was out hiking, going to different spots, going to Old Faithful, going to Lake Yellowstone. There's so much to do there. And like, there's always something to do. And it was cool because going to Yellowstone, you meet all these people that are seasonal employees, and they all have cool stories too.
Hmm.
And they're like, "Okay, so this is what brought me here. What brought you here?" And you hear their story, and you're like, "Damn." You're like, "Shit, I thought I was bad." I thought I was bad. But, and it was cool because being surrounded by people that, have a similar kind of vibe, like, a lot of people, we were kinda running from something, kinda running from our past and, finding solace in this beautiful national park, and it was cool, and, you develop a lot of good connection and good friendships from that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Was there anybody who still was like drawn back to that old lifestyle and
Oh, yeah.
testing up out there?
Sure. Yeah, yeah, there was, plenty of it, like, dudes were some dudes would, like, 'cause Montana State University, they have a campus in Bozeman, so we weren't we were, like, an hour and 15 minutes from there, so, there was a group of dudes that they'd go get some stuff sometimes and, throw a little party and whatnot, but I was like, "Man, I can't." I was like, "I can't do that, I can't go back down that," and I was like, I'll take a couple edibles," but when it comes to, like, the more hard stuff, I was like, "Yeah, I can't
Not
I
happening.
can't yeah, I can't backtrack at this point."
Yeah.
You know?
So do you feel like you really found yourself and kind of what you wanted for your own life path at that point? Or because I know you moved on, so you're here today, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, I mean, all I knew, I got a better understanding for who I was as a person, and I didn't know like much about what I wanted to do with my life, but I knew I didn't want to go back to Atlanta. I didn't want to go back to Georgia. I didn't want to backtrack because a lot of these people they'd work in Yellowstone for the summer, uh, and then they'd just go back home and they go back home. Some of them were in college and they were just doing that for the summer. There was a big group of, like, international students from, like, the Philippines or, like, other places in, like, Europe that would they would do, like, international travel through their university, and they'd come work there, and then they'd leave. So, a lot of people and then even the people that were, quote, unquote, "running from their past," they finished their season at the park, and they'd go right back to their hometown. I'm like, "Man, like, I can't do that." So me and a buddy of mine that I had made out there, he was from, the St. Louis, Missouri area, and I just told him, I was like, "Man, like, we're coming up on the end of the season, like, what's your plan?" And he's like, "I don't know, man." He's like, "I don't wanna go back to Missouri, though." And I was like, "I don't wanna go back to Georgia." And we heard that there was a winter job fair in Glacier National Park, and we are like, "Let's go there and just, like, see what's up." So we drove up to Glacier National Park. It was a great little road trip. Glacier National Park, even just as nice as Yellowstone National Park. So we were trotting around the park, and we go to this job fair, and what it was is it was ski resorts from all over the US that had booths set up.
Okay.
And it was the same thing, seasonal employment for the winter time, but for all these different resorts. And we both settled on Steamboat Resort in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, because my family had vacationed there once or twice growing up, and I kinda had a I knew what it was. Steamboat Springs, it's like 3.5 hours northwest of Denver. So it's not like a lot of those other ski resorts in Colorado where it's just right along the I-70, like within 30 minutes apart and stuff like that. Like Steamboat, it's like a 3.5 hour drive, like northwest. Like you're almost in Wyoming at that point.
Wow.
And I was like, man, like Steamboat is the spot. Like it's secluded, it's far away from Denver and all the other resorts. I was like, let's go there. And there was like a little window of time, a few weeks or maybe it was a month where we got to go home. And I was like, why don't you try to talk some of your friends into coming out there, and I'll talk some of my buddies into coming out there. And we'll like, we'll get a get a big spot and we'll all kind of be together.
Together and
Yeah, exactly. So and we did just that. He went back to his hometown and he got a couple of his buddies, and I went to Georgia and I want to say 5 or 6 of my buddies to move out west and work a season in Steamboat Springs, just working at the ski resort, like being like a ski lift operator, a server at one of the lodges or something like that. And it was super cool because it's like, we're going into this new place, but I'm bringing my buddies with me, and it was cool, and we had some good times, and we partied a lot. Maybe for the worse too, because I started to kind of maybe that's when I started to
I
backtrack
was
just a
wondering
little
if
bit.
that was a little slip.
Yeah, yeah, it was maybe a little bit of a slip because yeah, I mean, when you get to a ski town and you're just um kind of like ski bumming it at that point. Like our main focus was just like snowboarding or skiing or whatever you did. I snowboarded, and so you're snowboarding a lot, you're partying a lot, but I felt like, oh, it's okay because I'm not in Georgia. Yeah, like okay, I might be backtracking a little bit, but at least I'm not where I was before. But I was still, I kind of, I started drinking. I started drinking more at that point, and yeah, I started, doing other stuff as well. Yeah.
That end up in any trouble or
No, I'm not really. I mean, no legal trouble
yeah.
out there at all. But it was just kind of like the inner kind of conflict of knowing that I was kind of backtracking a little bit, and I was like, "Fuck! Like, what am I doing?" Even though I knew I wasn't as bad as I was when I was in Georgia. I knew I'd still kind of taken a step back,
Okay.
and then fast forward a couple years. I meet this girl. She's, beautiful girl working at the ski resort, and we started dating, and she kind of had to get my shit together for her because she is my wife. She's my wife now, and we're so different in a lot of ways. But she doesn't party or anything like that. She doesn't drink. She's a saint. She's amazing. And I was like, she's not gonna want anything to do with me if I'm partying with all my buddies all the time and doing this, that, and the other. So I kind of had to get my shit together because I wanted, I knew that I wanted to be with this girl. So I was like, man, I got to clean up my act. You know what I mean?
So she came along at the right time.
Yeah, she kind of helped push me back on track. And then, this is right before one of the biggest things ever happened to me. And, at the time, my father, he knew I loved it out there in Steamboat, and he knew I didn't want to come back to Georgia. So he was like, I'm going to buy some property out there, and I'm going to build a family cabin. He's like, I'm going to have you live at the cabin and take care of it year round. And whenever we want to come out, we'll come out. So he bought a plot of land, and he had a construction company that was going to start building this big cabin. And then boom, out of nowhere, lost my dad. He had a pulmonary embolism,
Oh man.
blood clot in the lung, and he just collapsed one day, and at the hospital he passed away. And I woke up. I knew something was wrong because I woke up at I woke up early in the morning, and I had 11 missed calls from my sister, and I was like, something's wrong. And at the time, our grandfather on my mom's side, his health wasn't doing too good, so I tried to call my sister back. She wasn't answering. So in my head, I was just like, okay, grandpa died. That's probably what happened. I get out of the shower, and my sister's calling me, and the first thing she says is, Dad died. And it hit like a punch,
Mm-hmm.
And my dad was a collector of many things, guns, high-end motorcycles. He had a couple Ducatis, a couple BMWs, a couple Harleys. So the first thing that goes through my mind is fucking motorcycle accident. Because my dad, he had a reputation. One time he told me, he's like, man, I got the Ducati up to like 190. And I was like, Jesus Christ. Now my dad was a big dude. And I'm like, that's just the physics of that don't work out. I'm like, you're a big dude on a little motorcycle. You shouldn't be going that fast. And so the first thing that comes to my mind is it was probably a motorcycle accident, and then I asked my sister, I'm like, what the hell happened? She goes, he had a blood clot. I'm like, what the, how the fuck? Like, what? And,
These other ways he could.
yeah, I'm like, all these other crazy ways that he probably would have rather gone out like that. I'm like, little blood clot got him. And, so I go back home for the funeral and everything. And I come back to Steamboat, and at this point, me and Hallie had been dating for like a month. or so, still very early on. But I told her, I was like, I got to go on a trip. Like, I got to do something. And I had never driven down the West Coast. I had always wanted to do it. I was like, you want to come? And she was like, yeah. And it was weird. It was crazy because we had only been dating for like a month, and we're about to go on a road trip for probably a month together. Yeah. So we drive up.
See it, the relationship.
Yeah, I was like, man, we're really gonna be testing this out, and it's gonna be a good little trial period. And so we do that. We drove up. We went all the way up through Jackson Hole to Seattle, all the way to the coast, hit Ruby Beach, and then we just started driving the coastline down all the way to LA. And it was such a cool trip. And I fell in love on that trip, and I was like, I want to be with this girl. Like, I want to be with her forever. Like, just how she helped me cope with the grief and everything, and just how she even wanted to go on that trip. I was just like, man, like, she's something special. So, we do the trip and we go back to Steamboat, and the construction company that was going to build my dad's cabin, they had heard about what happened, and they reached out and they're like, hey man, like, we're so sorry to hear about your dad. Like, we had only talked to him a couple times. He seemed like a really good man. He told us that you're working at the ski resort, this, that, and the other. And they're like, why don't you come work for us? So they gave me a job, timberline contracting in Steamboat Springs, Colorado. I didn't know anything about carpentry or construction, but they took me on, and I started working with these guys, and got me away from the ski resort side of things, and really kind of helped me get on track up there.
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was cool.
Out of nowhere, don't know you from Adam.
Yeah, they were just like, hey man, your dad seemed like a good guy if we're gonna give you a chance.
That is so cool.
Yeah, no, they were really, really good group of dudes, and I'm forever grateful for them, because getting away from the ski resort kind of employment, the ski resort doesn't really pay that great. I mean, you get employee housing and you get a ski pass, but a lot of companies up there, if you work for them, they'll buy you a season pass to go ride. And doing construction, I was getting paid a little bit more, so it was nice. And at that point, I had used some of the money that I'd inherited from my dad. We bought a condo there, and Hallie moved in with me, and I had one of my other buddies from Georgia. He had moved in with me as well, and so yeah, we were just working and snowboarding and skiing a lot. And me and my wife, we had our firstborn up there. We had our daughter in Colorado, and that was the moment where we were like, but she's from Flagstaff.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she went up to Colorado for college, and she had finished at that point, and we were dating, and we had Birkin, our daughter, and we looked at each other and we were like, we need to be closer to family. Like, we need to move out of here and be closer to family. And I was like, well, we can't. I was like, we can't go to Atlanta. And to me, that was perfect. So I was like, okay, sweet, like a new place. And at that time, I had came down to Flagstaff to visit, meet her parents and stuff like that. And when I came to Flagstaff for the first time, I was like, what the fuck is this place? Like, I was like, is this Arizona? Because my wife had told me, she was like, because she skied, and we go out and ski, and I'm like, damn, like, you're really good. Like, imagine a first date with a girl that you're trying to impress, like, on a snowboard, and she's on skis 50 yards ahead of you. I'm like, damn, she's done this before. And she's like, yeah, I did some ski racing growing up. I'm like, where'd you grow up? She's like, Flagstaff, Arizona. I was like, there ain't no skiing in Arizona. Right? What are you talking
Dodging
about?
cactus or what?
Yeah, I was like, what are you talking about? And then we come here, and I'm just like, man, like, this town is so cool. It feels a lot like Colorado in a way. So when the time came for us to make that decision, like, okay, well, we need to move somewhere to be closer to family. And me, I was like, well, we're not going back to Georgia. And I was like, let's go to Flagstaff. I was like, not Flagstaff, like, we'll be closer to your family. It'll give me a new place, kind of like a new adventure almost. So that's what we did. We packed up at the peak of COVID.
Okay.
This is right. I guess actually it wasn't the peak of COVID. It was right when COVID like became a big deal. like right when they started like shutting stuff down. And so we sold the condo and we bought a place out here in Mountain Air and we moved down here. And yeah, that's when I started working at the lumber yard over at Homeco Lumber and Hardware, and I was like, man, I'm missing something. What is it? Combat sport.
Yep.
So I was like, I got to get back in the gym. I got to start training. Because, you know, when you move somewhere new, I didn't know anybody here. I didn't know anybody here, but I knew getting back into the gym would not only help me meet new people, it would, you know, it would continue to help me grow as a person. So,
And it's a fast way to build community, I think.
exactly that. So yeah, I went over to Insurgent Fitness. I know you're familiar with that place.
That's where I go all
Yeah. Shout out to Morgan and Michelle. So yeah, I got into Insurgent Fitness, started training, started rolling, you know, started training MMA again. And I'm like, I hadn't fought in 7 years at that point.
That's a big break.
It had been 7 years since I had fought in the cage. And I was like, man, I got to get back in there. So what do? We get a fight. And we get a fight with, get a fight down in Phoenix. And, I start training for that. And then we, at that point, a couple of years had passed. We'd been down here for a couple of years. And then we have Bodie, my son, my youngest. And so now I got, 2 kids, beautiful wife. I'm back to doing what I feel like I'm meant to be doing, fighting. And, everything's going good. We take this fight. This is funny. And, you'll probably remember it too. But we take this fight and they're like, yeah, we got this opponent for you. His name is this. And, he claimed he'd fought in Chicago a couple times. And, the first thing you do when you get an opponent for a fight,
Look him up.
you look him up. I can't find anything on this guy. The only thing I could find was a news story out of Glendale and Phoenix that this dude, I'm not going to say his name or anything, but this dude had broken into his ex-girlfriend's house, stabbed her dog to death, and like killed her fish. And like
that.
broke the aquarium, killed his fish. And I saw the mugshot, so I sent the mugshot, or no, I didn't send the. I told the promotion, I was like, hey, I can't find anything on this guy. I was like, I can't find anything on this guy. Just send me a picture so I know what my opponent looks like. Sure enough, they send me the picture.
It's that guy.
And it's the guy. So I'm just like, oh man, like I'm gonna hurt this dude.
Well, and so I was in the gym at that.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
And I remember, I never wanted to make anything personal in my fights.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I know you weren't looking for personal, right? But
Yeah.
it almost like fell on your lap, like from all of us too. Like, man, that guy only served whatever.
Yeah, it was some slap on the wrist.
Yeah, it's
like thing.
He needs a little vindication, and you have a green light.
Yeah, to just whoop him. Yeah, and I didn't want to make it too personal and stuff, but we get to the weigh-ins, and this dude starts talking shit to me, running his mouth as we're looking at each other and shit. I'm just like, dude, I'm going to mess you up. So I had bought a shirt off Amazon that said, I'd rather rescue animals. And I walked out with that shirt on, and I think that's when he knew. I think he saw that shirt, and he was like, what have I done? And so we start fighting, and he shoots for a takedown. I turn in on my hips, and I get into full mount, and I full mount him, and I just start hitting him with the hardest ground and pound I could possibly throw. And they called the fight 30 seconds. So 30 seconds in, I hadn't fought in 7 years. And
I drove 3 hours to watch you fight.
Yeah, you drove, several hours. A lot of people did. A lot of people were like, damn, Mike, why didn't you make it last longer? And in a way, I should have made it last longer because I needed the cage time to knock off the rust, or so I thought. And so, I'm coming off a 30-second win in the first round, TKO. So I get another fight in Tucson, Rise of the Prospects. It's a great promotion. And they say, hey, we got an opponent for you. He's a tough guy. He's a hometown favorite. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. So I'm going into, I'm not going to say enemy territory because the fight community down in Tucson, they're great people. It's a great community, great fighters, great promotion, and a lot of support. But I knew that they wanted their Tucson guy to win. You know, they're like, "Who's this guy from Flagstaff coming down here?"
Just like we would if
Just
this
like
came
we would, yeah. You know, so I get in there and you know, I'm moving around with this guy, and you know, he's hitting me with a couple good shots, and I'm like, man, I gotta do something right now. So I hit him with a switch cross. I switch my stance and I throw my right hand as hard as I can. And in my mind, I was like, I'm gonna throw a switch cross as hard as I possibly can. And I did it, and it hit his head, and it dropped him to his knees. And I sync up a guillotine and get a tap in 45 seconds. So I hadn't fought in 2 years, and now here I am. I'm coming off a 30-second TKO win and a 45-second submission win.
Not much cage time.
Yeah, not much cage time, but I think I'm hot shit. I'm like, man.
But you were, right?
At the time, I was. And but you know, when you start doing good in MMA, you start winning fights, the competition gets tough.
Oh, yeah.
And I felt like at that time I was focused more on my image as a fighter rather than my skills as a fighter. And so I got another matchup, Rough MMA in Phoenix, Arizona. That's the premier promotion in Phoenix, and they matched me up with this guy out of an MMA lab. This dude was
I remember that fight.
This dude was built like a semi truck, and we were fighting at lightweight, 155. So you know, I make a hard cut down to lightweight, and the MMA lab is one of the best gyms in the world. So I was like, this is going to be tough. And I knew my opponent was super tough, and he was a really good wrestler. And that's something that I struggle with opponent wise. Maybe not so much anymore as back then, but man, this dude, I got in, I landed one leg kick, and he got a hold of my legs, and he took me for a ride. And it was right at that moment, I was like, damn. I was like, shit. And I remember he flattened me out near the end of the first round and got a rear naked choke. And it was brutal because, you know, at the time I was, you know, riding this high of like, oh man, 2 first round finishes in under a minute. And then I get finished in the first round. And I was just like, damn.
You were the hammer.
Yeah. I was the nail. And then, and that kind of messed with me. And like I said, at the time, I was focused more on my image as a fighter and not actually like.
Can you explain what you mean by image?
You know,
so like the
posting the not,
like the look at me, look at
me. Hey, look
what I'm doing.
Look at this highlight that I'm going to post on Instagram.
Okay.
You know, look at this. I was focused more on that as opposed to just the love for the game.
Okay.
And I feel like having the love for the game, especially in MMA and in combat sports, having that love for the game and the lifestyle is almost important as just being a good fighter.
Sure.
Like you got to love it. You really got to love it.
Yeah, if not, you're going to be exposed.
Yeah, and I did. I got exposed, and you know, I got beat. I got choked out in the first round. You know, so I took another fight, and I lost that too. I went back down to Tucson, and they matched me up against a really tough guy out of El Paso, Texas, and he got me. I think it was a 3rd round or maybe late 2nd round TKO, and I was just like, man. I felt so defeated, and it really messed with my mental health a lot because I was like, man, fighting is like, you know, it's who I am. It's like what is kind of like is what's given me, I don't want to say purpose because, you know, I have that in my family, but I guess like
maybe help you stay grounded.
Exactly. Yeah. Because, you know, when you're getting ready for fights and stuff, there's no room for drinking, you know, there's no room for, you know, doing bad things.
Everything.
Clean. Yeah, you got to stay clean. You got to stay clean, and you got to stay focused on fight camp. You got to get in tremendous shape, and that's what was kind of giving me that. And then, you know, I took that loss. I was like, damn. And I kind of started slipping up again. You know, I kind of started drinking more. I wasn't doing necessarily like, you know, I wasn't doing any like pills or anything like that, but I was smoking a lot of weed and I was drinking a lot. And, you know, that's no good. And I think a lot of it was I kind of fell out of love for the game for a little bit.
Okay.
And yeah, but you know, I was still competing and stuff and still training, still doing jujitsu matches and
Yeah, I remember you were still taking matches.
yeah, doing some Muay Thai fights, but you know, these are matches that I'd be drinking a couple beers before the matches or before the fight or something like that. I wasn't taking it as seriously as I should have been. And in a sport, and you know, in a sport like MMA, you have to give it your all if you want to see the best.
Yeah.
And I wasn't doing that. And last year, at the beginning of last year, I fought this really tough kid, really tough guy, and we fought Muay Thai, and he beat the crap out of me. He beat me up so bad, and yeah, it was a second round. It was either a knockout or a TKO. Man, he hit me so hard. And it was at that moment I was like, "Damn, like, am I even like, should I even be doing this anymore? Like, what am I doing? Like, this is just no bueno." So I told myself at that point, I was like, "I'm just gonna take a year off from fighting." Like, I'm not because all the losses were messing with me so bad. Like, it was just causing me to beat up on myself too much. You know, I'd start drinking again and it was just no good. So I was like, I'm just gonna take a step back from this culture and this, you know, I was still training, I was still helping out coaching, but I just wasn't fighting. No, and I wanted to do something new. And I've always had a passion for movies and for filmmaking and like for acting and stuff. Because growing up, my dad would take me to the movie theater every Sunday. That was kind of like our tradition.
Okay.
So I'd always kind of like had a passion for like movies and stuff. I just, you know, I loved it.
Speaking of that, don't you have a like a channel or something that you review movies?
Yeah.
Or
So when I moved to Flagstaff, I didn't, you know, I didn't have a lot of friends or anything. So I started this Instagram page called Real Talk with Mike, REEL Talk with Mike.
okay.
And I was just kind of reviewing movies, posting movie clips, and you know, talking about that. And the page has grown phenomenally over the years. It's, you know, it's at like 33,000 followers. Oh, a lot of, you know, big names, you know, some, you know, cool actors, even fighters, they follow the page. And it's really cool because it gives me an outlet outside of fighting and stuff to where I can just kind of mess around and post like a funny movie clip or something like that and talk about it.
And very diverse in the way that you're, I mean, in one hand, you're this hardcore drink
Yeah.
fighter,
Yeah.
drugs, all the hard stuff.
Yeah.
And then over here, it's this like
A little more artsy.
creative,
A little more
artsy.
yeah, exactly. So I took that loss last year in Muay Thai, and you know, my head was just kind of out of whack. I kind of had a little concussion there, and it kind of, you know, scared me a little bit. It was the first time I had been in a fight where I was getting beat up so bad that I just thought about my kids. And I was like, man, I just would really love to be on the couch right now with my kids. And in the fight, I'm thinking that, like, as I'm getting punched, I'm just like, man,
That's not going to help you.
I wonder what Birkin and Bodie are doing right now. I wish I was with them. I wish I wasn't here.
I hope they never see this.
Yeah. And you know, so I decided to kind of take a step back from competition. I was like, I want to go see if I can do something else totally new, like a whole new, dip my feet in a whole new culture. And so I kind of got into the theater community. There's a local theater here in town. There's a few of them, but I auditioned for a show at Theatricos Theater Company. I forget what the show was, but I go to my first audition. I'm the first person they send home. The first person. And I'm just like, fuck, what am I doing? Like, I can't even do this. And it put a chip on my shoulder. There was another audition the following weekend for a show called The Play That Goes Wrong. It's kind of like a physical farce comedy of this play that goes disastrously wrong. And I was like, oh, I'm going to audition for that one too. So I auditioned for that, and it wasn't a great audition. But the director took a chance on me. She was like, I have this role. It's a small role. It's a supporting role, but I think you're perfect for it. And I want you to do it. And I'll give you the role right here, right now. And I was like, I'm in. Like, I'm in. I want to do this. And throughout that rehearsal process, I was just so inspired by my castmates, because these are people that have been doing this for years, and they were very good at it.
Mhm.
So throughout the rehearsal process, you know, my character didn't have a lot of lines, but I was still at every rehearsal watching my castmates do what they do, you know, rehearsing lines, doing monologues, And I was like, "Man, I love this. Like, this is so cool." And it gave me an outlet outside of fighting that I could kinda commit to, that I was like, "Okay, like, I might be good at this. We'll see how it goes." And we did the run of the show. It was like a month-long run. Every weekend, you're doing Friday, Saturday, Sunday shows, and then we did that for a month, and that was The Play That Goes Wrong, and it was amazing. It won an award for Best Play and Best Ensemble at the Phoenix Broadway Awards, which is a huge, huge accomplishment. And then the stage manager for that show approaches me towards the end of the run, and he's like, "Hey, Mike, like, there's this other show this year, and I think you'd be perfect for one of the lead roles. I talked to the director, and you should audition for it." He's like, "It's called Swing State." He's like, "It's about this alcoholic ex-con that's struggling with stuff." And I'm like,
How would you get into character?
yeah, and I'm like, "Man, like, dude, I even have to do any method acting for that. Like, I'm your guy." So I do that. I nail the audition. I get the part, and it's such a shift because I go from a supporting small role in this physical kind of farce comedy, slapstick show, to this really serious kind of character study, and that deals with emotional themes like grief and addiction and trauma. And I was like, man, like, it was heavy stuff. It was heavy stuff. And it was also a bigger part that I was used to. Like, in this show Swing State, I'm delivering like page-long monologues and stuff like that, as opposed to the first show where I only had like a couple lines in act 1 and act 2, like, it wasn't a lot. So I was really intimidated by that, but, being such a fan of movies and filmmaking and acting, I drew so much inspiration, like, from actors. So I would look up, like, on, like, videos on YouTube, like Philip Seymour Hoffman interview on acting, and I would watch that. And, like, Philip Seymour Hoffman, he was one of the greatest actors of our time, and he also did stage as well. And I remember, like, just hearing some of the things he said, it really helped me, like, give my all to this show. Because, I'm taking so much time away from my family and stuff to, like, do rehearsals, so I want the show to be perfect. Like, I wanna be perfect, and it probably drove my castmates crazy because I was really, like, like, I was like, "Guys, like, I want this to be I want this to be a really good show. Like, I don't wanna half-ass it or anything. Like, I'm giving myself to this role."
Right.
And, this the subject matter of that play was kinda tough as well, and, so I kinda after the run of that show, I kinda started drinking again.
Mm.
Just to kinda, because doing the show, I was like, "Damn, like, this is hard stuff. It's stuff that I've gone through, like, shit, I need a drink." And so I kinda, started kinda sipping again, and, I was only drinking beer. I was never a big liquor guy, but nonetheless, it's still alcohol.
Still altering you.
Yeah, it's still altering.
Or you're numbing for whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, and the run of that show went great, and I've been nominated for a Viola award. It's like these awards they do here for the creative community here in Flagstaff. It's like the Oscars of Flagstaff, they call it. And I got an emerging artist nomination, and it turns out I'm a finalist for that. So we'll see April 18th if I win that award. But, win or lose, just being nominated for an award like that when I've only been acting for a short time, it means the world to me. And it really gives me that itch that I was looking for, that I can do something other than fighting and be good at it.
That's really, that's inspiring because so many people I talk to, they want to do something. Fear of judgment has come up a lot.
Yeah. And I'll tell you something. When you get into a cage and you're fighting in front of a lot of people, it's nerve-wracking, right? Like, you get nervous.
Yeah.
I've never felt more nervous getting on stage in front of the theater community. I was
I
I was like, I remember that. I was like, "Man, I'd rather be in the cage right now." I was like, "These guys."
I get it.
Yeah.
Because my first speech that I gave at the Orpheum, it was the same thing. It should be not a big deal. I'm talking literally about my life. That's not hard to remember. And yet I blacked out. I didn't know how I did. I was like so nervous. And then talking to some people who were high-level Navy SEALs, and they're like, "No, getting on stage and speaking is more terrifying than anything you ever did in the SEALs." I was like, "What?"
They're like, excuse me, did I hear that correctly? You're like, you're talking about combat.
But there's something that I'm sure there's a very close parallel to acting. I mean, you've gotta nail your lines.
It is. I honestly, throughout the rehearsal processes for these shows, some of my castmates and stuff, they thought I was so silly for saying this, but I'm like, this is a lot like fighting. Like fight camp is the rehearsals, right? Throughout the rehearsal process, you're in fight camp. You're training your lines, training your monologue, your chemistry with each other on stage. The fight is opening night, and that's the big fight. And that's when I'm like, so I translated
Prepared, right?
exactly. So I translated a lot, and it's probably crazy because you've probably never heard anybody say this, but I translated a lot of combat sports into theater acting, and it helped a lot.
It's arguably the biggest transition.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you always hear, "Yeah, I do combat sports," and it transitions into this sport or what. But
Not like
to go
not
into
performing arts. Yeah, it's crazy. But it was so cool because it gave me exactly what I was looking for. Like I figured out that I can do something other than fighting, and be good at it and be recognized for that. But at the same time, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it if it makes me less of a man or less of a, kind of like a father and a husband, but when I don't have a fight, I'm just if I don't have a fight booked or something on the calendar to train for, I'm kind of just kind of a danger to myself, like I'm more susceptible to go get a drink after work or, smoke a joint before bed or something like that. So it got to a point where I was like, man, like I need to fight again. So here we are. I, just recently booked a fight for April 11th down with Rise of the Prospects in Tucson, Arizona. And I'm sober right now. I'm healthy, and I've been on and off with my sobriety, but I really want, like, I don't want to keep going on and off. You know what I mean? Like, I'd rather just stick with it. And that's one of my big goals for this year. Even after this fight in April, I want to stay clean throughout the rest of the year and not drink. And me and my wife, we decided I can do one MMA fight a year, right? One a year. And that's fine with me because I'm to a point where, I'm 30 years old. I'm not necessarily dream chasing anymore. Like, I doubt I'll make it, to the UFC one day or anything like that. And more or less for me, it's just, I love the game. I love the game. And that's something that I had to find because so long ago, I was focused on my image as a fighter. And at that time, I did want to make it to the UFC one day. And I kind of fell out of love with the game at that point and was just more focused on looking like a fighter, like on Instagram or just in public and stuff like that. Just people being like, "Oh yeah, you're Mike Kennedy. I saw your highlight reel KO that one time," or blah blah blah. Like I was more focused on that than just loving the game.
yeah,
And I'm to a point now where I just love the game. I just want to fight. I want to go out there and I just want to give it my all. And so I'm going to do that in April, but the biggest fight is going to be after that fight ends because I want to stay sober throughout the rest of the year.
yeah.
So I'm going to do one fight this year, and I'm going to do another show, a theater show later this year as well.
Well, it's on the books, right?
Yeah, it's on the books now. Yeah,
You can't stray, right?
exactly.
You got to finish on the 11th and then roll right in.
Roll right into it. Exactly. Yeah. And, so much of it, my wife, she supports me in everything I do, whether it's fighting, acting, I've gotten into writing as well. I've always been a movie fan and had the movie page, and I was like, I want to do something more with this. And a lot of it came from reading my scripts for the shows. I was reading these scripts and I was like, man, I would love to, like, I could write like this. And I've always loved movies. So I started dabbling around with screenwriting.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's kind of a new outlet as well.
We're going to have to talk about that off camera. I've got some ideas.
Yeah, you get some ideas. Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
Because I'm currently chasing every dream too at the same time.
And writing is such a hard thing too. I mean, I'm sure you can attest to this. I mean, you're a published author, so you get to a point where like sometimes your fingers don't work. You kind of hit a block.
Yeah, it's one or the other for me.
Yeah.
Well, and what I wrote was my essentially my story.
Yeah.
A little bit of an easier path for me, I think, because it was just remembering stories and then recognizing lessons learned through my life. And I've dabbled just a little bit in fiction,
Okay.
and I'm going, there's no way.
Yeah. You're like, well,
Because I love reading a powerful fiction.
Yeah.
Project Hail Mary is coming out,
Yeah.
and that's probably my favorite fiction book.
I've heard so many great things about that book. I can't wait to.
I missed meetings. I was supposed to be in meetings.
That's how good it is.
I'm listening to it in my truck, and I pull into a parking spot. I'm like, yeah, forget that meeting. I gotta finish this page of the book. Yeah, so it's one of those things where I'm like, man, I would love to do it, but at the same time, you start. I'm like, I can't get in the mindset of people that are that creative, right? My creativity isn't that high. I want it to be.
Yeah.
But be really curious to learn more about your screenplays.
Definitely. Yeah. It's cool stuff. I enjoy it. My problem right now is I have so many ideas that come into my head for different projects and stuff. And I need to just like take the time to focus on one and get to a point like with that project before I focus on another one. But I get all these ideas in my head. I'm like, oh, I got to jot this log line down. Like, let me kind of play with this summary a little bit. Let me, make up a couple characters. And I'm like, man, I need to just stick with one. Yeah. But yeah, man, I'm so grateful for the life I've had and just getting to dip my toes in so many different kind of subcultures and even places, going from Georgia all the way out to Montana and Wyoming, going to Colorado, and then now being here in northern Arizona. Like, not a lot of people get to say that they've lived in that many places and traveled that much. So I'm extremely, grateful for that.
A lot of us don't take the leap. What do you think the mindset is? Are you running? Are you chasing? Are you looking for fulfillment? Like what makes you go, you know what? I'm going to be brave enough to get on stage to do a play.
Oh man. Yeah, I think it's just kind of like just the pursuit of greatness and the pursuit of just like knowing that there's more for you and more that you can do. And just a lot of it is recognizing that maybe, you're not giving your all in this. So see if you can go give your all in this and see if it pays off. And it did, because I did those 2 shows and, now I'm being recognized as a finalist for an Emerging Artist Award with the creative, arts community of Flagstaff. So I'm just like, damn. So, it works. Get outside of your comfort zone, try new things, and, great things can come from it.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's inspiring.
Thank you.
So where do we find you? How do we track the future of Mike Kennedy?
Well, I'm on Instagram, Mike Kennedy MMA. A lot of my family and fighting stuff goes on there. And then for the movies, Real Talk with Mike, also on Instagram. You can follow me that way. Or you can find me at Monster Fight Camp training, coach MMA 3 times a week. I'm in fight camp right now for April, so I'll be at the gym a lot training.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to challenge you right now. After the new year, we're going to come back on and talk about your sobriety.
Yes, let's do it, man. It's going to be a lot of positivity.
Good. Proud of you, man.
Thank you so much for having me on. This has been so fun, man. This is such a great thing you're doing today.
Thank you.
Yeah, it really is.
It inspires me to hear amazing stories.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This has been great. Thank you so much.
Right.
Yeah.